Okay, so I am once again outside of the studio, once again inside of a truck recording, and for the first time ever saying, oh my goodness, they did it. They banned so many things. Let's jump into it right now, starting off with Jeweled Lotus. Now, the Rules Committee decided to ban quite a few things. I'm going to go through these cards one at a time that were banned. These are massive bannings in Commander. I believe the last ban that we had was over 3 years ago, I think. I'm pretty sure, like, Hull Breacher was the last ban, and it's been a long time since that. There's been many people out there, including myself, potentially saying that, like, hey, if they're not going to ban things right now, like, they'll probably never ban things because, like, they haven't banned things in a long, long time. And it finally happened. So the Rules Committee maybe getting a bit, irritated. The players are saying, like, that they don't do, their job to ban things. But now they finally have. So here we go. So I'm just going to read really quick the kind of like overarching thing, and then individually each of these cards. The philosophy of Commander prioritizes creativity, and one of the ways we have historically reflected that in the rules and ban list is to encourage a slower pace of game than traditional formats. This gives decks time and space to develop and do different things. We have a goal to make it easier for players who enjoy slower, more social games to have an environment for them to explore. Commander has always had the potential for someone to get out to a fast start and to be the arch villain in the game, but that advantage has been balanced by having multiple players gunning for them at once when it happens. In the past few years, notably since Strixhaven, we have seen a pattern of stronger mid-game cards that's leading to the player who skips past the early game being able to win to snowball their advantage straight through to the win. Occasional games like this are fine, but it shouldn't be common. We're taking steps to bring that frequency down a bit by banning 3 of the most explosive plays in the format. Now, the first one I'm going to talk about is Jewel Lotus, which, I mean, if I'm editing this correctly, should be on the screen this entire time. This one is, okay, but during this recording, but, like, now that it's banned, it's no longer going to be the case. In 338,331 decks, according to EDH Rec. It's also, like, a $40 card. At one point, it was, like, over 100. Artifact for 0, tap, sacrifice, head 3 mana of any one color, spend this mana to cast your commander. Yeah, that's fast mana, but also it could be a useless card too if it's just a dead card later in the game. But yeah, early on it could be like, oh, turn 1 Urza, cool. All right, Jewel Lotus, let's read their explanation on this one specifically. Another card that can give you 5 mana on turn 2, Jeweled Lotus does it without even needing a good hand. Though you're restricted in what you can do with that mana, 4 and 5 mana commanders can pack a significant punch nowadays. Often draw cards to make up for the one-shot mana. And defensive abilities such as Ward can be interacted with that early in the game. Interesting that they pointed out that, again, like, it can do these things. Like, later in the game, like, it's not that great, but yeah, I mean, early on, obviously, depending on the commander, again, like Urza as an example, you can get out one of the most powerful commanders, many of the most powerful commanders, on turn 1, basically, with this, or turn 2, and just kind of snowball so quickly that it makes up for any kind of disadvantage for having the card. I mean, again, it is kind of like Commander's Black Lotus, or at least it was. That being said, yeah, it's a card that I'm not sad to see banned. It's a card that I don't think really adds much to the format, personally, but again, I am coming from the casual side of things. Next up, though, let's move on to what, in my opinion, is the most surprising of these bans, and that is Mana Crypt. I can't believe they actually banned Mana Crypt. The 124th most popular card, apparently, according to EDH Rec. 503,251 decks. There you go. A 0 mana artifact that says, beginning of your upkeep, flip a coin. If you lose, they flip. It deals 3 damage to you. Taps for 2. Colorless. Yeah, this is a crazy broken card. Definitely a power 9 card in Commander. I mean, according to different lists, and I think in multiple lists that I've made, it's been in those over the years even. This is a card that is basically free Soul Ring on turn 1, basically. But yeah, any turn, just a free Soul Ring. The downside is not really a downside. Let's read what the Rules Committee had to say for this. Coming down for no mana on turn 1, it's quite possible to have the explosive start of Mana Crypt into a Signet or Talisman, land, and another Signet, leaving that player untapping 5 mana on turn 2. In games going 12 plus turns, the cumulative threat of damage from Mana Crypt provides a reasonable counterbalance for its explosive effect, but when you are snowballing to a win, turn 6, 8 through 8, it's meaningless drawback. I mean, I would even disagree that it's a meaningless drawback, even if you are going 12 turns, based on, it's what it's giving you. Yeah, it's in other formats, it's a bigger, drawback being, over a tenth of your life, every single time it hits you. In Commander, it's like, oh no, it hit me. Okay, I barely felt that. Wow. Yeah, 3 damage out of 40, versus 3 damage out of 20. There's a big difference there. And yeah, I mean, the game might not even last 6 to 8 turns, if you throw down a Mana Crypt on turn 1. Yeah, this is a card that I also am not, upset to see gone. It's a card that has been very expensive, and it's a very, very... I mean, it's crazy as how popular this one is with how expensive it is and how much play I've seen it play. Even at, casual tables, you'll see a Mana Crypt here, there, and everywhere. And it's a card that, again, like players out there that have this in their decks and have it banned might be a bit upset because this is a very expensive card that players probably invested a good amount of money into, and now it's just gone. And I've actually seen some places that like the price on this card is like down to nearly nothing at this point, which is kind of crazy. So yeah, Mana Crypt now apparently a bulk rare. Again, basically free Soul Ring. It's kind of, again, if they are going to hit like the fast mana cards, we'll talk about Soul Ring here in a little bit. I'm not surprised that, again, if they are banning all these all at once, that they're just doing all of them, not just like some half measures, except for maybe Soul Ring. But yeah, being able to say, yeah, okay, Mana Crypt, it's gone. Like Mana Vault, I will spoil it right now if you haven't seen all the bans right now, but Mana Vault is not banned. That one's kind of more like a dark ritual effect in a way, because you need to pay a lot to untap it or have another way to untap it. So that's probably why they kept that one around, since it doesn't just untap naturally like this one does. Like, this is just kind of a step above many cards out there, and yeah, it basically is a Soul Ring with no drawback that is free. I mean, a small drawback, but not really a drawback that really matters all that much in Commander. Yeah, it's kind of crazy that this one actually is banned with how expensive it is and how many decks it's in again. So, the Rules Committee making a big move here. Next up, Dockside Extortionist finally got the ban. Wizards finally reprinted it a couple times. They're like, hey, everyone, here you go. And then it gets banned. Interesting. I mean, I'm not upset to see this one banned either, because this thing is broken and should have been banned a long time ago. And actually, kind of with that, really quick, I just want to read an excerpt from the Rules Committee's post back in January of 2023, quarterly update. We publicly had our eye on Dockside Extortionist for a while now, and have ultimately concluded that unless there's a sudden surge into more casual spaces, where it hasn't really thrived due to lower density of cheap fast mana, we don't anticipate taking action on it. It's a ridiculously powerful card, but scales with the rest of the table, and at that point it becomes broken. Plenty of other stuff is broken stuff is already happening. So not sure exactly what changed between then and now. It didn't really become any more popular than it was back then. It's around the exact same amount. I just think it's more of a willingness to ban things apparently right now. Maybe, again, because the Rules Committee did get so much flack that they hadn't been banning anything for a long time, and it didn't seem like they ever would ban anything. And we'll talk about kind of what the onset of all these bans really might have been, which is kind of just ironic and interesting that it was not any of these cards, really, I don't think, that actually kind of started this ban discussion, but it was something else completely. So Dockside Extortionist, a 1/2 Goblin Pirate for 2 mana and red. When it enters the battlefield, create X treasure tokens or X the number of artifacts and enchantments your opponents control. That's a lot. I mean, that's just a lot. Again, like in a format like Commander, you've got 3 opponents. That's 3 times as many things as you usually have to make treasures off of. Again, it doesn't say like, non-token artifacts, non-token enchantments. So you count your opponents' token artifacts, token enchantments, like, treasures, clues, etc., etc., etc. This combos with a lot of things. This also just is a giant ritual effect, essentially, that you get to save the mana on whenever you need to use it. It also, of course, works really well in, obviously, treasure decks, any kind of, like, sacrifice decks that care about, when you're sacrificing tokens or just artifacts or whatnot. Yeah, it is pretty crazy. 75th most popular card overall at this point. According to EDA Track, 347 1,000 decks to its name. No longer, apparently at this point, though, it's going to be going down a little bit further. Yeah, I mean, its percentage, I guess its percentage in decks is higher than Mana Crypt just because it is, a red card versus Mana Crypt can go in any deck. That being said, let's read really quick their explanation for the ban. Dockside isn't normally quite as explosive in the early game as the other two cards, but it can still go mana positive on turn 2 and start generating substantial treasures after that. It's been on the border for years, and we've shied away from taking action in the past because the card has scaled well at the power level of the table, but it's a frequent contributor to the more egregious snowballing starts. So again, it's just interesting to see like their words now versus their words almost 2 years ago at this point, because it's not like it got more popular, which is kind of like what they were saying. Like, as long as it doesn't see more casual play, we're fine. Like, it was already seeing a good amount of casual play, being the 75th most played card right now. Around then, I'm pretty sure it was around the exact same or so. So again, like, I think it's more so there. If we're going to start banning like the fast mana stuff, we need to ban it all, except one exception that we'll talk about again here in a little bit. But yeah, this one, again, once I saw that, Mana Crypt is banned, not surprising that Dockside Extortionist got the ban as well. I think Mana Crypt was the hardest one probably to ban out of all of these. Jewel Lotus probably the easiest. Actually, probably the next one the easiest. Then Jewel Lotus, then then Dockside, then Mana Crypt. We shall see, though. Okay, the fourth and final ban, unless some late one's like, wait, we forgot to publish the article. Oh, we actually published the wrong article. We forgot that we are also banning Wayfarer's Bauble. Anyways, Nadu Winged Wisdom, a 3/4 bird wizard with flying that costs 3 mana in Simic. Creatures you control have, whenever this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability, reveal the top card of your library. It's a land card put on the battlefield. Otherwise, put in your hand. This ability triggers only twice each turn. This is one of those cards that, okay, I'm for players trying things out and being able to try out the cards. There's only one card, to my knowledge, at least in the most recent years, that has been pre-banned, and that was Lutri. And no offense, Lutri fans out there, that one was a pretty obvious has to be banned because it's just a free included in any Simic deck, essentially. So kind of has to just be banned. This one is one that, when it was printed and, when it was spoiled, it's yeah, that probably needs to be banned because this is low the ground, crazy times, just not limited at all. There was already an article, and I already went over this one as well, about how it was banned in, I think, Modern and another format as well, but basically how, yeah, it's problematic because they didn't see the interaction with cards like Shuko that just can pay 0 to equip something, and that counts as a target, obviously. And if you just have a bunch of miscellaneous creatures in play, or ways to make creatures when you are targeting as well, or when lands come into play or whatnot, cool, you just go infinite but not quite infinite. Sometimes it's a very annoying thing to play against, it's a very long thing to play against, and it's way too easy to break. It just is. Currently, there are 5,938 decks to Nadu, according to EDH Rec. Obviously, it's in other decks as well in the 99, but it's kind of more problematic. I mean, it's problematic as both, but problematic as a commander. And essentially, this is one that, started skyrocketing at first and becoming popular. And then I think it tapered off when, players realized just how incredibly annoying this thing is and how no one really wants to play against it. Many players, I shouldn't say no one, many players don't want to play against something like this. And some players would just say that they literally wouldn't play against something like this. Let's really quick read what the rules committee said about this one. There's another ban here, and it's explosive, but in a different way. Given that Nadu Winged Wisdom has been ejected from multiple formats at this point, it's no surprise that we took a close look at it for Commander. Sometimes hugely problematic cards in other formats, Oko Companions, are fine for Commander, but our observations of Nadu suggest its inherent play pattern is going to cause problems. Already is causing problems. Part of the problem is, that was me, not them. Now I'm gonna keep going back to them. Okay, here we go. Part of the problem is the way in which Nadu wins, where it takes a really long time to do non-deterministic sequences that can't be shortcut. It might even fizzle out. There aren't dictated combo lines that you have to build around. Dropping Nadu in a normal Simic shell still runs the risk of grinding the game down to a slog of resourceful accrual. Interacts badly with cards that are staples of casual play, most notably Lightning Greaves, meaning that decks where it gets thrown into without abuse intent can still create a situation where the player is monopolizing all the time of the game. It's not an experience we want to risk, so Nadu gets itself another ban. So this is the thing again where I kind of just mentioned that, again, I hate to say that, again, the rules committee should have pre-banned it, but they probably should have, because, again, this is one that was kind of obvious to many players out there that, like, this is going to be problematic. Like, this is just, like, this is the kind of design that many players don't want to play with because, again, like they said, it is, you know, non-deterministic sequences. You know, you could win, you could not win. You're doing, like, a long, you know, solitaire turn. And many players don't want to just sit and watch a player do that, and it's way too easy to do that. Again, they mentioned Lightning Greaves, obviously cards like Shuko, etc. There's plenty of ways to go, you know, like near infinite, but not quite infinite with this. So it is one that, again, like, it's one that I do think that they probably should have, like, really considered before players actually invested in decks built around it. Especially if someone dropped like $40 on a Shuko. Like, just you need to kind of tell players ahead of time, like, hey, this is probably going to get a ban. That being said, I do think that this was kind of like the onset of all the other bans. I think this was, and I kind of mentioned this as well, when this card was banned in the other formats, I mentioned that, like, this is probably the Rules Committee's excuse to essentially ban Nadu themselves, because they're going to be like, okay, we haven't banned anything in a while, but you know what? Nadu's causing problems in other formats. Look, now we're looking into it as well. And you know what? We're going to find a way to ban it too. So I did think that was definitely a possibility that it could get banned. I don't remember if I gave like a percentage or whatnot, but I definitely thought it was a possibility that it could get banned since it was banned in other formats. That kind of gives, not that that's like a reason, because obviously, again, like they mentioned, like things are broken in other formats like Companions, but like other than Lutri and Commander, like Companions are not broken. And probably you shouldn't have to pay the 3 to actually, you know, get them in your hand. Regardless, yeah, Nadu was probably like it was probably the discussion point of like, okay, if we're going to ban Nadu because we're finally banning something for the past 3 years, should we take another look at Dockside? Should we consider finally putting our foot down on fast mana? And they finally did that. And I think, again, that Nadu was kind of the start of that, really, I believe, personally. So that's probably what put all this over the edge. And now let's talk about the last thing, though, something that was not banned, but again, like, is kind of suspiciously not banned when you take everything else into account. And that, of course, is Sol Ring, the #1 card in Commander. Not surprised that this one didn't see a ban, but I am glad that they did mention it. Here's what they said. We should also talk about the elephant in the room. We're not banning Sol Ring and have no desire to. Yes, based on the criteria we've talked about here, it would be banned. Sol Ring is the iconic card of the format. It's sufficiently tied to the identity of the format that defies laws of physics in a way that no other card does. Banning Sol Ring would be fundamentally changing the identity of the format. We aren't trying to eliminate all explosive starts. It happening every once in a while is exciting, and removing the other 3 cards is geometrically reduces the number of the hands capable of substantial above curve mana generation the first few turns. Okay, not that I don't disagree with that. I think that one thing that they didn't mention that they are definitely taking into account as to why they did not ban Sol Ring is that it literally is in every single pre-con. That has got to be a reason as to why they did not ban it. Because them banning this means that literally they made every single pre-con out there illegal. And it would have to be adjusted. And also some pre-cons moving forward too, I am sure. And Wizards would not want to be selling pre-cons that have a banned card in them and being like, here, play Commander, kids. And then we're like, well, we can't because that only has 99 cards and the one's banned. So yeah, I think that that's got to be part of the explanation that was not said, because technically Wizards isn't supposed to have like really any like kind of major influence over what cards are banned because the rules committee is supposed to be separate. That being said, I do believe that that definitely was, in my opinion, one of the driving factors of it. Yes, it is an iconic card of the format. That being said, I know plenty of casual groups out there, I believe MTG Goldfish included, that has it house banned because Sol Ring should not be legal in Commander. Really just should not be. Again, they basically explain that, yeah, if we are saying all these other things, if we are saying that the format is better without overly explosive first turns, yeah, Sol Ring is like the poster child of that. This is like Mana Crypt. It's basically the exact same thing as Mana Crypt. Like, essentially, it's nearly the exact same level of crazy power. Again, they mentioned, like, oh, it's problematic if you Mana Crypt turn 1 and then into a Signet, into a Talisman, whatever. Yeah, Sol Ring kind of gets you there, too. You know, Sol Ring can definitely get you there as well. We're like, hey, Sol Ring, Talisman, cool, all right. Next turn, 5 mana. All right, yeah, you hit both your land drops, you're there. So, yeah, it's again, a card that, in my opinion, and many players out there don't like to hear it, is problematic. It is a problematic card. It is a card that literally, again, if they redid the format today from scratch and we're like, okay, we're going to make this brand new format, what should we include? This would be a card that would never be included because, again, when it comes to just like the efficiency of mana rocks, 2 mana tap for 1 is very, very, very good. Like Arcane Signet level, that is absurdly good. That is what you strive for with mana rocks. Cost 2, taps for 1. Sol Ring is the opposite of that. It is, what, like 4 times more efficient, essentially? It costs half that amount and taps for twice that amount. And I know players out there are like, well, it's fun to randomly get it sometimes. Yes, but it also can just lead to non-games as well. And again, the rules committee is saying, we're trying to stop the snowballing, stop the overly explosive turn 1 plays, stop the, non-games, in my opinion. It probably is a card that should be banned, really. Like, it's just kind of, it's a card that should be banned, really, if you are actually evaluating in that way. And again, just saying like, well, because it's iconic, we're not going to do it. I think they also should have said, like, because it's in all the precons, because that, I think, is the main reason, too. So, yeah, if it wasn't in all the precons, this is a card that I think would be more so on the chopping block. But yeah, I'd love to hear from you. What are your thoughts on all of these bans? Again, a massive shakeup. The first time I think we've seen a ban in like 3+ years. I think it was July of 2021. Correct me in the comments below if I'm wrong on that with the last ban that we saw. But yeah, 4 major bans. I'd say 3 major bans and then Nadu. But yeah, 4 major bans. And then Sol Ring still not banned and probably will never be banned. Again, if they just banned all the fast mana right here and there and they're like, we're not banning that one, it's probably never going to get banned. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on the comments below. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one.
This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.